As Chu Qiao and the others entered the side chamber of the Anyuan temple, Chu Qiao's face turned red with embarrassment, resulting in Jingjing and the others chuckling in amusement. Only Xiaofei seriously kowtowed to the statue with reverence, before turning around and glaring at the group making a ruckus behind. With the smoke from the incense coiling around in the air, the entire hall was deeply consumed by a serious silence. The Guanyin statue that wore a peaceful smile sat on the altar, overlooking the peaceful worship hall that was illuminated by the sunlight that pierced through the incense ashes that floated in the air. Yuwen Yue's voice was right by her ear. With an overwhelming gentleness, he quietly stated, "Praying needs to be done sincerely." Chu Qiao turned her head around, looking at his crystal-clear eyes, before smiling at him. In her smile, one could see a sense of seriousness, and at the same time there was a tinge of childish playfulness. She turned around and knelt down. Her hands were placed together, and in her heart, she spoke the words that countless women had prayed before. First bow, please protect him, ensuring that he is always healthy and safe. Second bow, please help us to always be together, never separating. Third bow, please grant our wishes to have a healthy child. Bowing again, she was ever so sincere. On her face, there was a serenity that one had never seen before. Buddha, you have protected so many people before. Today, please protect me as well. Jingjing, Pingan, and some others were smiling at her demeanor, with Xiaofei beside them warning them to respect the deities. Yu Qi and He Xiao were outside chatting and gossiping. As they started to talk about how one of their officers had been caught by his wife when visiting the brothel, the crowd of guards burst out in laughter. Deep into autumn, the weather was beginning to turn cold. Under the vast skies, she knelt there before the deity, only feeling that life was so peaceful and serene, and her past memories of blood and war were ever so far away. Her mind had never been so peaceful before. Yuwen Yue helped her up and embracing her. His lips lightly pecked her forehead as they smiled at each other. Jingjing, with her sharp eyes, immediately grabbed Xiaofei and started to rant, Look, sister and sister-in-law are being disrespectful to the deity." Hearing that, stifled laughter started sounding out. Even though Yuwen Yue did not mind, Chu Qiao's face was light red as she escaped from his embrace. Yet, her hands clasped Yuwen Yue's arm, refusing to let go. "Are we going to stay on the mountain and eat the vegetarian meals?" Yuwen Yue asked. Before sitting for long, Xiaofei suddenly began to fidget. Chu Qiao initially thought that she wanted to pee, so Chu Qiao pulled her aside, onto to see that Xiaofei was extremely flustered, and only after hesitating for a while did Xiaofei reveal that there was a fortune teller in the temple. His fortune-telling was extremely accurate, and his medicines were all miracle medicines. The fact that she could have 2 kids was also thanks to his medicines. Yet, Yu Qi and young master did not believe her. This time around she could only come to purchase it secretly. Naturally, Chu Qiao did not believe her. Deep down, Chu Qiao thought the fact that you could have a child was thanks to Yu Qi. How is that even remotely related to a fortune teller? Yet, seeing how she was so sincere in her words, Chu Qiao could not bear to reject her, so she accompanied Xiaofei after telling Yuwen Yue they would be away for a while. The fortune teller donned a head of white hair, looking lonesome and mysterious. At first glance, one really felt as though he was somehow deity-like. Upon seeing Chu Qiao, he immediately said how she must be a person of great wealth, yet she was tied down by all kinds of bonds in her life. As long as she remained faithful to the Buddha, there would naturally be ways to resolve everything. Hearing that, Xiaofei kept nodding as though telling Chu Qiao, "Look, this mister is so accurate." Yet, Chu Qiao could immediately tell that this was what this fortune teller would tell everyone, who would not be tied down by bonds for their entire life. As for wealth, anyone could tell by looking at the quality of the clothes that they wore. Xiaofei sat before the store and started her fortune-telling, completely engrossed. Chu Qiao, on the other hand, felt extremely bored and suddenly noticed a familiar figure. Seeing that, she was completely stunned. After a while, she lowered her head and informed Xiaofei that she would be leaving shortly before she quietly followed over. It had been 6 years. In the floating red leaves, he wore a set of white clothes, looking ever so normal, without the energy and spirit that he once possessed. With the autumn wind blowing past, his sleeves lightly fluttered, waving in the air. "Your Highness, do you want to drink water?" A servant who seemed to be 18 to 19 walked up. Although dressed like a male, the voice gave away the fact that she was a young woman. Her back was facing Chu Qiao, so Chu Qiao could not see her face. Prince Song turned around. One could see how his face, which once was plump and childish, completely carefree, had completely slimmed down. Even though his body still stood upright, it was obvious that he was tinged with a sense of fatigue and lonesomeness. His eyes lost the spirit that he used to have, with only calmness and maturity remaining. Even though he was only slightly over 20, his two sides were already beginning to turn white. He shook his head and calmly instructed, "I wish to walk around alone." The young girl did not move at all, and lifted her head up slightly. Holding the water, the breeze caressed her face, bringing a sense of familiarity to Chu Qiao. The servant suddenly lifted her head, and firmly asked, "Your Highness, are you waiting for someone?" Prince Song's face seemed somewhat unhappy. He frowned and asked, "What did you say?" "Your Highness, you have not left the palace for long, but why do you suddenly feel so interested today?" It was obvious from Prince Song's gaze that he was even more unhappy, as he flashed a meaningful glare at the girl before walking off. The servant was taken aback as she chased up, and tugged on his sleeves and advised, "Your Highness, have you forgotten about 14th Highness words?" Being pulled by her, Prince Song turned around slowly, his eyes deep like a lake, not revealing his emotions. He deeply stared into that young girl who was dressed like a man, and firmly declared, "Wu Xin, not everyone in the world owes you something. Is your hate too strong?" Having said that, he turned and walked off into the autumn forest. That young girl stood back facing Chu Qiao. Her figure seemed so frail in the swaying branches, as though wind could just come by and blow her away. There was a sense of loneliness that could never seem to be erased, overflowing from her fingertips, wave after wave. She stood so still, and after hesitating for a long time, she finally made up her mind as she wiped her face with her sleeves as though wiping away something, before chasing after Prince Song's footsteps. With her departure, the forest returned to the peace it usually had, with birds chirping in the wind. A scene flashed before Chu Qiao's eyes, as she was once again reminded of how so many years ago, he wore a set of sapphire blue that was embroidered with colorful birds and beautiful clouds. In his hand, there was a golden horsewhip, as he told her proudly, "I think you are the prettiest of all the maidservants. How would it sound if I made you my general in charge of watching over the gates?" With the wind passing by, she suddenly felt cold. Xiphias' voice drew nearer in search of Chu Qiao, snapping Chu Qiao back into reality. Chu Qiao then went back while holding the hands of this mother of two. The crowd seemed to be rather tired from roaming the entire area. As they went down, they took the carriage. In the shaking carriage, Yuwen Yue saw that Chu Qiao did not seem to be in very high spirits, and asked if she was tired. Chu Qiao said that she was indeed tired, before leaning on Yuwen Yue's shoulder and falling asleep. Yuwen Yue held her hand and felt that she was extremely cold. He suddenly felt a tad worried as he instructed Yu Qi to rush. Yuan Che will be marrying soon. Chu Qiao was rather taken aback as she lifted her head at Yuwen Yue.